You're listening to the Life in General podcast with Tom and Jaye. An hour of informative commentary on today's headlines, current events, and what's going on around the world and around the corner. And now, here are your hosts, Tom and Jaye Darden.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Life in General podcast here with Tom and Jaye, coming at you on this very pleasant morning, evening, afternoon, depending on what continent or part of the world that you're in. Coming at you, I think, with episode, 50 million. We're just stacking them up left and right. Thought about doing a possible special when something very wild happened over this past week and weekend. That we're going to get to, but we're going to start this episode off the same way we do every time and ask the man of the hour how he is down there in sunny Ecuador and see what is the hap. So, hey, Dad, how are you?
I'm doing very well. It's just not a lot changes down here. Of course, right now there's a lot of protest, and they're protesting the price of fuel before it changes. It's supposed to go up in August, and so they're protesting now and shutting down roads, and the stores have got bare shelves, and you can't buy eggs in the store, and the roasted chicken that we get, you can't buy that anymore. So we don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. So,
well, when you said not a whole lot changes, my thought there goes to, well, there very much was indeed a time in the very recent past that you didn't want to go to the big city because, well, reasons. And it's something that it's unique that you bring that up. The fact that they're protesting something that is going to happen, right? Like they're getting kind of, I don't want to say ahead of the game, because how far can you protest? I mean, that far out. And excuse me, is it going to make a change? But hey, it is what it is. And speaking of protest, we saw something here, actually, in the good old America, US of A, where the Supreme Court, like I'm sure everyone and their distant relatives know, was overturned. So Roe v. Wade was deemed not appropriate legislature, and then people are losing their minds, whether or not it be in jubilation or possible horrific, visceral reactions, thinking or stating that half of the population no longer have control over their autonomy. So that was something that kind of came out of left field. Well, I say that's if you're not paying attention and didn't realize that got leaked, back in May or something like that, or maybe even earlier.
Yeah.
Which you think, why are drafts of that sort of thing getting leaked? I mean, you would think that the literal highest court in the land would be a little bit more airtight than that. But
yeah, you would think so. But everybody's out of their mind. And I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and I said, we can agree to disagree. It's your body, and you do what you want to do with it. It's your body. So you do what you want to do with it. But if we don't agree, don't burn my fucking house down. Just because you don't like the color of my mailbox and you live across the street from me doesn't mean you can burn my house down. And that's the nonsensical part to me is everybody, the violence that goes along with it is just, and nobody says anything about it. Everybody's calling for violence and, tear this up and assault these people. And just because you disagree with somebody. I don't get that. To me, that's Flip Wilson said it years ago. This is back in the 70s. He said, violence is a tool of the ignorant. And that's stuck with me all these years. But I had somebody send me something today, and I need to read it before I forget about it. If you were trying to force a needle in my arm last year, I don't want to hear my body, my choice from you now. I thought that was very profound. Your thoughts?
I think that is kind of interesting, right? Where a lot of people in this case would say you're not comparing apples to apples, right? You're comparing apples to oranges. And now, of course, it's going to be just an unpopular opinion sort of day, whether or not you go one way or the other for whatever it is we're going to be talking about, right? Because when you look at something that says, hey, like a vaccine in this case, and of course we beat this to death, right? That could potentially affect several other people if you got infected and then spread that shit around, your body didn't beat it down, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, you have the argument where you got to look at, okay, well, then now this is affecting one, possibly two lives. It just really depends on what the thought is there. And people are going to have their opinions, and it's going to be all the way from this is that. And
don't fight about it. Don't run my car off the road or don't assault my children when they go to school because you and I disagree. I don't get that. I don't get how stupid that is. If they only knew how ignorant they sounded. And they're going to try to ride this wave into
the elections, right?
Yeah. And you've got 130 days. Vote them out. Vote them the hell out. You saw where Justice Breyer is retiring tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was. It was not supposed to be right away, but he said, "I'm out." He called the president and said, "I'm out tomorrow on the 30th of June. My retirement takes effect. I'm out of here, buddy, tomorrow." So you've got Joe's nominee, whatever it is, Aunt Jemima, coming in his place. So that'll throw a twist into the court too.
Well, I think it will.
It's not a constitutional right. They didn't read. They don't have any idea what they're talking about. It's not a constitutional right. The government should not have got involved 50 years ago, and they shouldn't be involved now. And the government being the Supreme Court, the highest level of court and judicial system in the U.S. government, shouldn't have got involved back then and shouldn't be involved right now. It's out of control. It's out of control.
I will say this, calling for violence on people or possibly their spawn is not something that is very conducive to making change. However, I can understand the levels of frustration people are going to have because you got to look at it like, states had literal trigger laws that when this went away, instantaneous change in legislation. And it's something that, to me, that flabbergasts me a little bit. Like, I'm not thinking that states or state governments are sitting there like on a ticking clock, basically waiting for things to change.
50 years? They've been sitting there waiting for 50 years?
My assumption,
or did they just...
So this is me speaking out of ignorance, but my assumption would be is that they didn't have Roe v. Wade go into effect, and then the trigger laws were sitting there. Like, that came later, right?
Right.
I did see someone, I think it's Boart, one of the representatives, say they are tired of just having church and state separate. And that is something that our founding fathers went through a lot of shit to make sure that was done, from my understanding. Let us know in the comments below if I'm speaking out of turn here. But it's something where when those lines start to get blurred, we have another problem, right?
Right. Well, the decision does not make abortion illegal in America. It doesn't. And everybody is spewing all of this bullshit And it's just ignorance because
it
you don't
puts
know
it down to
what-
the
you don't-
states, essentially. And
The
then
10th Amendment, in the Constitution says the states have control over there. And if it's at the state level and you don't like it, run for office, okay, or move, change it, vote them out at the state level, or move out of the state if you don't like living there.
I think
Move.
you will find a lot of people are now taking that, that proverbial path of trying to, I don't want to say escape, because then it sounds like they're escaping from like the worst place in the world, which I very much don't
California.
feel. No, I'm talking about just the U.S. in general. But one thing too, like speaking on moving or getting away and whatnot, you can do that. And that's totally fine. And some states or some other countries, I should say, might have certain things a little bit better, but they also may have some things a little bit worse. And when people think about this and discuss it, it doesn't ever seem to come to the forefront of their mind that they're looking only at the positives and not even considering any of the negatives, because they think that it's literally so bad here that they have to escape. Now,
Right.
to that end,
It's illegal here. It's illegal in this country.
What?
Abortion is illegal in Ecuador, across the board.
Right.
The whole country, it's illegal.
Sure.
With the exception of, I think, medical, rape, incest. There's like 2 or 3 exceptions.
Sure.
And they're big exceptions. You got to have like 2 doctors sign off on it to say that, yeah, it needs to happen. Otherwise, it. But what really surprised me was states that allow late term abortion. This is all the way up till the day of birth: Alaska, Oregon, Colorado, New Mexico, Vermont, New Jersey, and Washington, D.C. Late term abortions. How do you do that? How do you have an abortion when the kid is almost born, the child is almost born? I don't understand, man. This is a precedent. It's not a constitutional right, and it's not a law. This is a precedent. And Roe v. Wade is one of 230 times that the Supreme Court has overturned a precedent. This ain't the first time that they've made this decision to flip something that everybody is just accepted as the status quo. Say they came in and did this 50 years ago and said, this is what you're going to do. And everybody went, oh, okay. And they've gone along to get along for 50 years. And now that they want to change it, everybody's out of their mind, man. They're out of their mind. But you've been okay with it for 50 years. And it's not a right. And everybody gets it. It's a constitution. No, it's not. It's not a constitutional right like the right to bear arms, which now ever more people need to be carrying guns because of the Fruit Loops that are out there trying to hurt people. They called open season on pro-lifers. They called open season on them. They've been calling out for all kinds of violence and bodily harm and structural damage and all kind of stuff, kind of like the Summer of Love over in Seattle when you burned half the damn state down. I don't get it. We can agree to disagree. Whatever your opinion is, that's fine with me. I myself have never been involved in the decision-making process that, or have been a part of that type of situation as far as I know. And so I can't put my 2 cents in other than you do whatever you want to do. Just leave me alone, because it's out of control, man. It's out of control.
Well,
and the Democratic Party's trying to use this as a political stunt, to help them in November, because, they damn sure can't run on the state of the economy or foreign policy or gas prices. Or how about the 40-something people that died in the tractor trailer in Texas? Did you see that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, there was like 46 people that died in a 53-foot trailer they pulled it over to the side of the road in a remote area and just let these people die in this semi truck. and I think 12 went to the hospital or something, but 46 or 47 people died. Well, Joe, you said come on, come on, yeah, come. Don't worry about the border. Don't worry that their blood's on your hands, man. Their blood's on your hands. That's ridiculous.
Okay, I mean that's
We'll
all well and
blame,
good, but
we're going to blame it on Trump though, because
well,
we got to blame it. Got to blame everything on Trump.
Well, something I would think there is very much that. Yeah, it's like, sure, come, and that's fine. And other people could have said that too, but it would be a scenario where what would we be saying, or what would you be saying if someone else was in office, like someone who you possibly liked? You would say, okay, well, they're taking their lives into their own hands and not following the rules, right? So it's just about context and about the current happenings there for sure. But
speaking of current happenings, did you see where the guy shot at the Hendersonville policeman?
I did. I actually talked to my sister about that today. She was talking about
they killed him.
Yeah, like up in Louisville or something like that. Yeah, that was nuts.
Yeah,
I mean,
dude
got shot at
great,
in Hendersonville, right, and then made it all the way up to Louisville, and then just that's all she wrote.
Yeah, got into a shooting match with the Kentucky State Police, and they took his ass out. That's great, man. That's great.
That's pretty wild. I mean,
if you're going to paint, if abortions aren't safe, neither are you on the side of a building. Really?
I think that's pretty intense.
That's how you're going. Yeah, that's how you're going to play this. And it's funny because they showed a clip of Joe Biden years ago, and you can look it up on YouTube. I do not view abortion as a choice and a right. I view it as a tragedy.
That's fair. I mean, you also have to understand too, somebody who's in politics for 40 years, their views are going to change, their attitude's going to change. Like, that's just the nature of the beast.
You see where his ass got caught on. They played the tape of him and Hunter, and he left the voicemail for Hunter saying, "You're in the clear, and you ought to be okay." And he didn't. I don't know anything about Hunter's business dealing, lying piece of shit. Well, let me ask you your thoughts on this. Microsoft, Nike, Uber, Apple, Netflix, Starbucks, companies that will cover travel and abortion cost. If you live in a state that, if you live in a state where the restrictions, I guess, are too much and you choose to travel, those people will pick up the tab if you work for them.
That's pretty unique.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
I would say, so if you look at it from a perspective of take out like life, death, whatever, and you put in, okay, this is a medical procedure, at that point, it's just, okay, they have better benefits.
Okay.
If that makes any sense whatsoever. I mean, it's something where I understand, obviously, the conversation is much more nuanced than that, and it is a very difficult decision, and it changes someone forever, most likely.
Right.
And at least based on the conversations I've had with folks. And so, to that end, if they're going to offer that sort of a thing, I mean, it's a unique incentive to say, hey, come work for us, I guess, like be a part of that team. But it's something too where what's the difference between that and then giving 6 months, 3 months, a year of paternity leave?
I don't know what the difference is. All I know is it's travel expenses and pay for the abortion. It's okay with me because most of those people I don't do business with anyway.
Well, I mean, those companies very much have enough lucrative income. At least the 1% of those companies most certainly have it. So why not?
Isn't it funny how we change our stance on a dime, or we advertise our stance all of a sudden? Just bang, here we are. Oh well, we're going to jump on with the woke crowd.
Yeah,
or we're going to jump on this crowd.
Bo Burnham said it best in his Netflix. In his Netflix series Inside, where he says it's no longer about brand awareness and selling a product. It's now utilizing your brand awareness to stand with a cause that will invariably increase your brand awareness. And like one of the most funny parts about that entire show is when he says, it's no longer, do you want to buy wheat thins? And I've said this before, so I'm repeating myself. It's no longer, do you want to buy wheat thins? It's now, do you want to help wheat thins in their fight against Lyme disease? Something as arbitrary and as silly as that. But when they take that stance, and they almost assuredly have folks saying, are you on this side or that side? They'll do their market polls, right? And say, hey, we need to be on this side of this tsunami. And then boom, it just increased profits because it looks like they're actually doing the right thing. Or they're woke enough or engaged enough or involved enough to say, yeah, we're keeping our finger on the pulse. Like, we're hip and with it. So come shop with us or work with us because we're with it.
Right. Well, Roe v. Wade, man, it's going to go on and on and on, and they're going to drag it out like COVID.
Yeah.
Well, they won't talk about $5 a gallon gas, but they'll talk about Roe v. Wade, or they won't talk about, we looked at bacon earlier in the store. It's $13 for bacon.
For like a pound, I guess.
I guess so. I didn't even ask, but wow. Yeah. They've taken over in the fruits and vegetables where the vegetables normally come in. They've taken canned corn and canned peas and stacked them up where they normally have fresh vegetables so that there's no bare shelves. We went to, I call it the farmer's market. It's called like the Mercado or something like that, but it's like the farmer's market. And that's where you get all your fresh stuff from the local people. And you can get shrimp, that caught that morning, and fish caught that morning, and beef, that was worked on that day, and all kinds of different, fresh stuff. And so we went over there to get eggs because the store doesn't have eggs. The big grocery store doesn't have eggs. And there used to be a big old shelf. And I was like, they don't have any eggs. And she said, yeah, they do. They're right over there. And I said, no, they're not. And she said, well, they're over there. And I said, no, they're not. And they had filled up the egg shelf with energy drinks.
Well, hey, you got to get your carbs and protein or whatever the hell you got to get.
Right. That's right. So when we went to the farmer's market, he's selling a tray of, I guess it's 30 eggs in a tray. And it was like $8 for 30 eggs or something like that. It's gone up. The lady told me, she said, we can get the guy going down the street delivering from his farm and get it 10 cents an egg.
Oh, okay.
12 cents an egg. And now we paid $16 for 2 of those flats of eggs. And I was like,
for 30 eggs, I mean.
Well, 60. It was 60 eggs for like $16 or something. So that's kind of pricey. But you cook a lot of stuff with eggs. It's like can't make meatloaf and can't make breakfast, and you can't make a lot of stuff that you put egg in there with it. So.
And understand this, folks. This is in Ecuador, right? So when he's complaining about prices that are actually much lower than what they are here, understand context matters. So.
Well, yeah, the president here in regards to the protest is lowering the price of regular gas 10 cents a gallon and the price of diesel 10 cents a gallon, and the people are still pissed off about it. And diesel's only $1.90 a gallon now. And regular gas is only $2.55 a gallon. And he's going to drop it 10 cents a gallon, and they're still mad about it. So
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how long this uprising is going to roll for, but it's kind of gotten ugly in a couple of bigger cities where they've cut off the highway to the airports. The Galapagos Islands, they've cut off access to the Galapagos Islands, and they won't let any tourists visit or any of that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's getting kind of ugly down here. So
yeah, for sure. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's something too, like, people are going to get mad when things aren't shift or moving in such a way where it seems fair, right? Or it seems out of the reach of the normal individual. Because if they set everybody down in good old America and told them, okay, here's what, gross domestic product is. Here's how much this cost today, yesterday, last quarter, last year, etc. And then they say, okay, and here's what the cost was on all of that. So if they showed you the cost and the cost goes like this, right? And by cost, I mean cost to produce, not cost to purchase.
Right.
Cost goes whoop, possibly, right? But cost to purchase just does this, and it goes up in a linear pattern. People would lose their fucking minds because they're going to say, okay, why don't profits go like this? Go like this, prices go like this, and then come back down a little bit. Versus, wait a minute, here's your threshold. It never goes back down. Ever. Even if the cost of making the good or producing the good or whatever falls, they're like, no, we've already got people paying this. Why would we want to reduce our profit margins and make less money? You're already paying for it. So, okay.
A premium price for it. Yeah, I love it because they're telling everybody to turn their thermostats down, to save on the electrical grid during, the summer and all that kind of stuff. But yet you want us to buy an electric vehicle. Well, how are you going to charge it? If they knew how ignorant they sounded, they would, they'd just keep talking because they're stupid.
My assumption there would be is if they said, hey, you went ahead and bought your electric vehicle, just go ahead and, lease solar panels from fucking NES or whomever your electric company is in the area. Because that's amazing. Where they say, hey, they have a program. You can straight up lease solar panels from them. Now understand this. You can't put up your own. You have to go through them. And then if you want to even attempt your own, there is almost an impossible process in which you have to do it, making it not profitable in the slightest. And then finally, they'll still come out and say, oh, well, it didn't inspect correctly. And then you have to say no. Oh, but you can lease ours. So it's just something where it's all about them dollar bills, y'all. So
nickel and diamond you, like you say, every week. Nickel and diamond.
Yeah, speaking of nickel and diming, folks, the price, of course, of everything has been going up steadily for as long as we've been functioning. So they finally are bringing commercials to Netflix. Now, what's happening is it's functioning like every other streaming platform where the lower tiers will have ads and then you can pay to not have ads. So,
wow.
It's absolutely wild.
That is crazy.
But what that's going to mean is this. They're going to say you have your current tier, right? Like our tier where it's like $19 a month, but you get 4 or 5 profiles, all streaming in 1080p, and then everybody can stream whatever they want all the time. Then so that's like $20 a month. And then you'll have a tier that'll be like $12 with ads. Well, what they can do at that point is then say, oh, well, your one for 20 can now go up to like 25, right? Because they have a lower one. And so they're going to do something similar to what they do like at the movie theater, right? Where you got the small popcorn, which is nothing. You got the medium popcorn, which is really not a good deal. And then you got the feed bag, right? Where you take out a second mortgage to purchase it, and then they bury you in popcorn. You eat your way out of it.
Yeah, you bring the pink slip to your car in.
And so to that end, it's a tactic to where they say, oh, well, look, like this value is good versus it's really not. Like it's not any better or any worse than this, but it mentally aims you in that direction. Or it allows for them to say, oh, well, we had that tier, costs are going up. And it's like Netflix is firing people left and right, like so many other companies are as well, right? They're downsizing.
Right.
making people work more, continue to have the same amount of profits, raising the cost of purchases and streaming things and whatnot, and then boom, there you go. Like, it's just shenanigans.
Yeah, that is crazy. I also had some things I wanted to bring up about America needs to cut her losses.
Yeah, that was a little like a little 10-minute segment on what's her name? Laura Ingraham? Is that who it was?
Yeah. That was very well explained, wasn't it?
I mean, it's fine. It reminded me very much of when you say cut our losses, my thought immediately went to excuse me, Texas trying to secede, right? One of the things that made me like think about that, of course, I saw this on Reddit where they say, perfect, go for it. Because what that's going to mean is instantaneously all the elections are won by Democrats, because you then have so many votes that leave. You have so many senators that leave, so many House of Representative people that leave, so many electoral votes that leave. So they're like, perfect, please do. And then you're going to beg for support when your infrastructure doesn't work. And then America's not going to have to give it to you, right? That's just not how it's going to work. And they're going to say, oops, good luck. And so that very much when hearing or listening to America needs to cut her losses, well, it's like, it's fun to say, but to put a lot of certain things in practice, the cost is very high. But please continue.
Well, we need to cut our loss in the Ukraine and the Russian conflict. We've sent $53 billion to Ukraine. Yours and my tax money, $53 billion to Ukraine. We should have never got involved over there. I've said it before and I'll say it again. We've got no business at all being in Ukraine. And this is going to turn into another Iraq or another Afghanistan. And then the taxpayers will be on the hook for another 10 or 12 or 15 years if we don't cut our losses and get the hell out and move on. And Slow Joe wants to go, well, the cost of protecting democracy, hits everyone. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to hit us. But we also, number two, is we need to cut our losses with China. We're way, way too dependent on China. Now, I'm not saying snuff them out altogether, because that's just not, that won't work. But they use slave labor, to make the stuff that they sell. And fentanyl through Mexico, and they've lied about the oranges of COVID. So why don't we just deal with them on a trade level basis? Joe's trying to do away with all the Trump tariffs in China and the taxes, and try to make, and people pay their fair share, man. He wants everybody, Trump wanted everybody around the EU and the world to pay their share. $53 billion to Ukraine. The third thing is we need to stop with the foolishness of the Green Deal. Just like we just said, the turbines and the solar panels and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if Joe is playing stupid or just plain stupid. You saw the 18 cents federal gas tax holiday, right? Did you see where they're asking people to cut the prices up?
Yeah, I saw that, and of course I saw like the backlash of it where
18 cents, really?
Well, and it's something too that you look at, even if you round it up to 20, just to make the math easier, right? Like $4 off of your fucking tank of gas isn't gonna make anybody feel any better, right? There's a difference when it's $20 difference, right? Of gas versus, X, Y, and Z. Now, granted, if you're talking about folks like diesel, that might make some things go down. Like you might feel it a little more if they're buying 100 gallons at a time, right. Or if, heaven forbid, you have a gas hog for whatever reason. Not that you're hauling things other than yourself and possibly your hopes and dreams, but you're spending over $100 at the gas pumps, taking photos of it, saying, "Oh man, this what a shitty place to be." And then you look back at your truck or whatever and think, "Oh, I love this car." Like, to me, that's just shenanigans. I don't get that. Now, with the Green New Deal, okay, that in and of itself, yeah, I think is kind of silly, but I don't think going in those directions is bad, right? Like, we want alternative fuels because do you want to rely on fossil fuel forever? It is a finite resource, right? And it's something too where, could you imagine, like, okay, there's an alternative to gas that half the people are going to be utilizing. So then the gas moguls they just can't keep a chokehold on the prices because people just aren't using it as much anymore. Right?
Okay.
So
I don't use gas. I have an electric vehicle.
I don't know if I'd call that a vehicle, but
well,
you have an electric.
You watch yourself.
I would
buddy.
say an electric means of transportation, possibly.
Okay. But the reason I have that is A, I don't have to wear a helmet, but I do. And B is I don't have to have an operator license. So I don't have to go in there and try to take the test in Spanish and me not know any of it. And then 3 is I don't have to have a license plate because it's electric. So
well, and so to that end, excuse me, the big thing there is you did that not because you chose electric, right? You did that to circumvent other things, which a lot of people in this case, they're not going to buy an electric car because they want to save the world. Because if you actually look at what it takes to make one of those things, and in terms of like the precious metals and where they have to get those and whatnot, you're not saving a lot of the world. But they have that kind of in the back of their mind. But they're doing it to circumvent other things. Like, I couldn't imagine ever needing to go to a convenience store ever again. Like, could you imagine you just never stop at a gas station ever again? Now, granted, you would have to, if you go to a long trip, like on a long journey, and you're in an electric vehicle, you're stopping somewhere for electricity. Like, you're not just going 800 miles on a trip on a single charge. We haven't gotten there yet, but to that end, yeah, it's nuts. Like, you just don't have to stop and then look at the meter going up and up and up and up. And you're just like, okay, cool. I guess, going to work not only cost me mentally, but it also cost me physically. So, and it's a product of the environment, right? Like, it's a product of just the state of things. And it's a scenario where, yeah, that's taxing, like, monetarily and mentally. And with the prices being up, and we don't have a whole lot of say in terms of companies being able to change that sort of thing, because there is a hold on certain things that you utilize all the time, because that's how we were generated. Like, that's how it wasn't necessarily like brought up, but that's how the infrastructure is generated. Could you imagine if Nashville and every other major city around the world, or not around the world, but like around the US, just had trains?
No. Can't imagine it.
I mean, like a metro or something like that, where you could effectively get around the city without cars, right? You could effectively get around like on buses, on subways, trains, whatever.
They used to do that when they rode the streetcars.
Right. So to that end, and you look at like how much better traffic gets, and you look at how much better, this, that, and the other gets in terms of like, pollution and yada yada, when you have just multiple people clamoring into a small space. I know now, based on certain past events, you don't necessarily want to like bunch up with a bunch of people for a long time, but I mean, there are certain people who function normally. They're either my age or yours, and they don't have the driver's license because they don't need it.
Right.
They have lived an existence in which They're just somewhere. They have a train, they have a taxi, they have a bus, whatever. They don't need it, and they don't care. Like, they function just fine without it. So, sorry for the tangent there, but speaking of Green New Deal and stuff like that, I don't think the initiative thought is bad, but I do think the way that people are presenting things are not good.
Okay. We also need to cut our losses with the wokeified military. They're even having problems recruiting people, and it's just we need to get it back into a fighting unit like it's put out to be and supposed to be. And the next thing, we need to cut our losses with all things COVID, spending, mandates, vaccines. If it was up to the government, they'd borrow hundreds of billions of dollars more for doing testing and vaccines that nobody wants or needs. You got to be kidding. And then Slow Joe comes on there and says there's going to be a second pandemic. Now, what's he mean by that? What's he hinting at? There's going to be a second pandemic. Really?
Well, if you
try to lock people down again after this bullshit you pulled this last time. Yeah, see how far that goes.
Well, I'd say if you put that sort of fear into people, that's just what's going to happen, right? Like, they're going to react a certain way, and then that's going to be it. But
we need to cut our losses with the pro-criminal DAs across America too. They're giving these guys, no bail or cash bail, or they're letting them out, and then they're for the 2 police officers murdered. We talked about that last week by a guy that was out and should have been locked up. We need to cut our losses with the GOP, the Republican establishment, the dinosaurs lumbering around Mitch McConnell and all these, dinosaurs lumbering around D.C. that are more interested in making deals and putting money in their pocket than they are, staying true to the Constitution, man. It's really sad. And we need to cut our losses with the party in power, because the Democratic majority, everything they're doing is hurting American people. Gas, food, education, crime. Everything. Cut your losses. 130 days. Vote them out.
Something that is humorous about the notion of voting them out, starting to get, and I'm sure all of our lovely folks who utilize Facebook are receiving this same sort of a thing. Make sure you are registered to vote. Now, I don't think that. Honestly, for the most part, we are not sponsored in any way by the Coca-Cola bottling company.
Things go better with Coke.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. The Life in General podcast is in no way endorse Coke and or Pepsi in perpetuity, unless you want to give me some Diet Mountain Dew, and then I'll be all about Pepsi. We'll go to war. One screen will be Coke, the other screen will be Pepsi, and we'll
I found it.
I'm fighting.
They quit having Mountain Dew here, and I've got to drive 90 miles to get some. So Pat brought me a 6-pack in the other day, and I started just, oh God, this is probably a little bigger than a 20 ounce, and it's 60 cents.
There you go.
Yeah. Just to show how they jacked the prices of stuff up. So, still got Coke, still got a plastic bottle, still got a label, got all the same things they got in the U.S., and they got to ship it here. They don't make it here. They ship it here, and it's still just 60 cents. So.
Yay, yeah. And also a majority of the roads aren't paved, so you take what you get, right?
That's right. We live on the dirt road, the old dirt road.
Yeah, I was going to say it feels like Old Town Road every now and then, So
yes, it does.
Get your horse, right?
A horse here or there. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was super fun. Give everybody a little inside scoop to the last time Fotter was up here, introducing him to Lil Nas X. That was very exciting. So yeah, good stuff. Got to put that into the old rotation there. But yeah, so like Facebook or Instagram, a lot of these different sort of social media sites, they're prompting you. They are straight up like giving you plenty of lead time, saying, hey, make sure you're eligible. Here's how you check. Here's how you sign up. And I thought that's pretty interesting. And it doesn't seem like, at least from my perspective, right? Of course, everyone's different, but from what I see on there, excuse me, unless it's happening on like a very deep mental level, if that makes sense, I don't see any sort of angle. It's just get out there and do it. Like, get out there, express your right, become educated, vote, go, like, do it. Because, of course, when we look at our feeds, right, like the feeds that we have that come in through Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever the hell it is catered to like what we want, right? Because we say, okay, no, mute that person, mute this person, unfollow this person, etc. And then it's going to be, sadly, more like an echo chamber than we may want to admit. But it's something too where if what you're hearing or seeing is mostly non-political, it doesn't matter, right? Like there's a very big difference if your Facebook feed is a bunch of cute little like 4-panel comic strips of like dogs and, you know, bananas and all, you know, little Batman things. Like, that's vastly different than, okay, it's going to be, here's what happened on Fox and Friends or whatever, you know?
Yeah, I have to watch some comedy usually before I go to bed at night because, you know, my head starts to explode with things that they're not taking care of, like Hunter Biden in January the 6th.
Well,
and
I mean,
all the bullshit that they're spewing. I can't watch it up until I go to bed or I'll be tossing and turning all night long thinking that Swallow Me Harris is going to get me or something.
So I'm going to let everybody in on a little something that's kind of fun. I just had surgery literally like 4 hours ago on my throat. And something that I thought was hilarious, you know, I'm a big nerd, and that goes physically and metaphysically, right? And hilariously enough, when I was down under on the same chemicals that took out Michael Jackson, so I thought, hee, you know, don't kill me or whatever, you know, yeah, hoo.
Did you ask them what they were giving you? Is that how you knew?
Yeah, 100%. I was like, so can you tell me what you're going to do? And everyone in there was amazing. Everyone was super nice, polite. Yeah, this hammer. Everyone was super awesome. Great stuff. And it's funny because they have to swaddle you because there aren't any armrest on the things, like on the chair that you're in. Because I mean, it can literally go up and down any what way they need it to go to make sure they can angle at whatever angle they need to have you in. But they had to like strap you in, man. And I said, I'm fine with that. You swaddle me all you want. I don't care. And yeah, it's the same drug that took out Michael Jackson. And I thought, all right, not a bad way to go. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because of my nerddom. I 100% while I was under thought about Dungeons and Dragons. 1,000%, like in the dream-like state that you're in. I was gone playing D&D with my friends, and it was fucking awesome. Because I come out and I'm like, I'm ready to take a hostage, man. Because anesthesia, it doesn't affect you and me the same way it affects a lot of people, right? They're like, okay, you know, sit down in this wheelchair and whatnot. I'm like, wow, let's go. You know, of course, I'm starving, you know, so not because I'm fat, because, you know, it was at 4:00 that your surgery is. And I don't know who all out there has had it, but you need to fast. And by that, I mean dry fast, meaning no liquids and nothing to eat or drink before your time because of certain complications. And so I was ready to take a hostage, man. I was ready to go. And
I told your sister it'd be happy hour when you came too, that she needed to keep that in mind, you know.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. And so yeah, I just thought I'd share that because that was hilarious to me. I'm thinking, what? Like that's what I thought about? Like what the hell? And it was too funny. But you know, things went well, and here I am, and I'm talking and moving and grooving and eating, and I'm ready to go, man. So let's do it to it. But yeah, so that was kind of interesting, and just how quick it was, and all that. So pretty nuts.
So you feel better?
I do. I mean, it's going to take a little bit to get like back to quote unquote normal, but yeah, no, it feels great.
Oh well, what is normal?
That's another topic for another time. What is normal? And actually, we've talked about that before. Early on in the podcast. Yeah, no. Early in the podcast, we talked about that in season 1 for our regular OGs out there who've watched that. I apologize. Yeah, we actually did discuss what normal was, and it was pretty interesting.
Just so you know, it's season 2, episode 6.
There you go.
This is currently episode 6.
Yeah, so that's what, episode 58? Ready to go.
Yeah. Pretty good. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And things will just keep evolving and moving and grooving, and it's absolutely wild. So, the big thing we can tell everybody out there is just be mindful.
Stay focused.
Stay focused.
I've told most of the expat community down here to keep your head on a swivel, because we went into town today and there was a huge presence of law enforcement above normal. We went into town and had to get some printer ink and then pick up some stuff at the grocery store. And there were cotton. This is the national police. They don't have a local police in the city we live in. It's a national police. And then they have what's called the transit police. Well, the transit police were real corrupt. We've talked about this, and they've just basically gone away. Well, now there was one on every corner today.
Oh my, okay.
There was almost one on every corner. Now, they weren't there to pull anybody over or try to get $5 from you or whatever. But of course, they weren't doing shit but standing there. They weren't directing traffic or trying to help anybody turn or cross, little old ladies cross the street or any of that kind of stuff. But the national police, the place was everywhere. And I'm thinking, are they just waiting on something to pop off? Or are they trying to keep it from popping off? So that was interesting to see a large presence, because they've agreed to meet with the protesters, and they've met a couple of times, and they're trying to work it out and all that kind of stuff where stuff can get back to normal. But normally when we ride down the road, you can see the ocean. You're probably only about 100 yards off the ocean where the highway is. And usually you can see, we live about 8 miles north of a big port where, the shipping containers and all the stuff comes in and out there. Huge place that they just dredged to make deeper so they could bring in bigger ships and stuff. And there were no ships out on the water. None. There weren't even fishing boats.
Just
out of the water.
Really, there were no vessels in general. Okay.
See, well, you can only fish certain times of the month.
Oh yeah,
because they don't want it to overfish, and so, but there were no big freighters carrying freight, and usually there'll be at least one or two coming in or out that you can see on the horizon of the Pacific Ocean. Nothing out there today, buddy. Nothing, nada. So I don't know if we were in between boats or what was going on, but they're going in and coming out. About an hour and a half later, there was nothing, and I was like, man, this is getting ugly. So, yeah.
Well, and it's something
$1.90 $1.90 a gallon diesel down here, and you got $5 or $6 a gallon diesel up there. That's ridiculous.
That's in Tennessee. That's not even counting certain states where it's just ridiculous, right? Like they're talking about the $5 a gallon. This, in certain states, it's $6, $7, $8, and it's just absolutely wild. So, But yeah, man, that's crazy.
I just hope that they put an end to it before it spills over into the smaller cities, because a lot of the people can't come. The farmers can't bring their stuff into town to sell it. So that hurts the people trying to buy it, and it also hurts the farmer, the stuff going bad.
So how does that affect you? Like, let's think about this. Okay, so let's say it continues on for another month or two. How are you and the other expats affected?
Well, if the farmers can't bring this stuff in out of the fields, then there's not going to be any food on the shelves. If they're not letting the freighters come into the port, there's not going to be any food on the shelves. So you're going to have to get creative. And they don't sell, REMs down here, ready to eat meals. They don't sell those down here. They don't have any idea about that kind of stuff. I
I think that's MREs, meals ready to eat. But
already, man, IED, blows up in your face. I don't know, man. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see. I hope it doesn't reach that level. But it's like I told Pat. I said we need to start stocking up on eggs because they don't put their eggs in the refrigerator.
Right.
Their eggs are just out on the shelf. Yeah. So we can get eggs and put them. Start trying to stock up on some stuff.
Do you know how they used to store eggs and can almost store them indefinitely?
No.
I think, if I remember correctly, comment down below and let us know what you think, if I'm speaking on my ass or not. I believe you can put it in lye, right? Or ash, one of the two, and you can bury them, right? And then seal that up, and then that'll keep for basically like a year, something like that, something insane. So that's old timey. That's real old school levels of keeping things fresh, because of course you can find anything on YouTube, and one of the things, other than the Life in General podcast with Tom and Jay, you can find things where they talk about old school colonial things, and one of the ways that they used to preserve eggs, they had 6 different methods, and it went from least effective to most effective in terms of time, and it was pretty wild.
Yeah, some of the people here, some of the expats that have yards, they grow bell peppers or cucumbers or red peppers, and they grow a little bit, not enough to sustain life. But
sure.
They do grow some of their own stuff. So
and that's one thing to look at too. Is you could put a couple of raised gardens in there and just go to friggin' town, man. Because I'm sure you could grow a lot of shit out there if you were able to water it effectively and whatnot. So
one of the guys we know, he grows marijuana and does very well.
Okay, well, you can't exactly eat that. I mean, you can add it to things to eat to make life a little bit easier, possibly some days.
His wife makes some awesome cookies.
Right, but if you didn't have the dough, the flour, the sugar, yada yada, you don't have weed cookies, right? You just have the oil, or butter, I guess. But even then, you gotta go get your own cow or a freaking goat and start.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We get a goat. That's what we'll do, and we'll get a chicken and have them lay eggs, and we'll start farming.
There you go. Then we'll call it farming in general with Steely Joe and fucking Banjo Tom or whatever the hell you want to call it. So,
that's right. I got to give a shout out to Cannell and to Shannon. Those are our people that make the greatest cookies and have the best brownies in town. So
hell yeah. Well,
that's right.
Shout out to your local bud tender. Keep them in your thoughts and prayers all the time. So we've just about hit our hour mark. Is there anything else you would like to discuss there, good sir?
No, but Roe v. Wade is not a right. It's not a constitutional right. So get your facts straight before you start spewing a bunch of bullshit. Please. The Life in General podcast does not condone. So there you go.
I was going to say, you got to finish that sentence. What does Life in General the Life in General podcast not condone?
I'm not sure. It may be contraception or something. And and this new and this is something that I meant to tell you. The new legislation that was brought up, or whatever the Supreme Court did, it doesn't have anything to do with contraception. It doesn't have anything to do with gay marriage or gays. It doesn't have anything to do with interracial marriage. I mean, they're trying to tag all of this stuff onto something and they have no idea what they're talking about. It's getting real old real fast. So find something new to talk about.
What a world to live in. But
yes,
as always, thank you so much for watching the Life in General podcast here with Tom and Jay. Like, comment, subscribe, or as as some people would say, like, comment, and survive. LOL.
I bet we get some. I bet we get some comments on Roe v. Wade. Somebody's going to say something.
I have
out there.
no doubt in my mind you're going to get probably several comments on what's been said. So, thank you all so very much for watching. We love you all very much. Please keep the comment section, not kid gloves on, but just make sure if you're gonna go to town and fight somebody, just make sure you glove up.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
And hey, we will catch you all in the next episode.
See you.